we start. Okay, quick introduction. My name is Hadi Sutude. I just completed my PhD in soccer analytics at ETH Zurich last December, where I was focusing on identification of team formations and player positions for the last 4 years. I was also a teaching assistant for the university's soccer analytics course. And before the start of my PhD, I worked with the Dutch FA as a football data science consultant. So I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn. We are almost getting to 40,000 followers. It's almost there, where I regularly share football data content with you. And the profile picture that you see on my page, that's for 7 years ago when I attended a hackathon organized by Paris Saint-Germain. And from that on, I was involved in participating in multiple football data hackathons over the years. So let's see what we can learn about this specific match. And I think it's important to know the context. It's getting close to the end of the season, and both Arsenal and Manchester City are going shoulder to shoulder, the same points, and also the same goal difference so far. It's just that City has scored more goals, and that's why they're on the top of the table. I think one interesting stats to just bring in belongs to how many nights from the beginning of the season each team was on top of the table. And you can see that if you use that as stats, Arsenal 208 nights compared to City in only 10 nights. But I think it matters most in the end of the season, and maybe that specific night is enough to become the champion. And it doesn't matter how many nights over the year you were on top of the table. So that's why the pressure is really keep building on Arsenal, and they need to win this match, and they need to win it big. So the last time that Arsenal and Newcastle face each other in the same stadium is for almost a year ago, May 18, 2025, where Arsenal could win the match with 1 goal against Newcastle. And just for people who don't remember that match, I just included a short highlight, and then we can just keep talking about what we can learn about that specific match using tracking data, how these two teams, let's say, operated against each other. So that was the last time they played against each other. And the reason that we have, let's say, chosen that specific match to analyze is that we have access to the tracking data from the last season as part of the course that I'm taking by 12, context engineering course, where the TV broadcast tracking data has been generated by a skill corner. But ideally, you would focus on this current match and maybe study the last 5 matches of each team to get a better picture. But just for the sake of the webinar, I think this is also a good example to show you. And for those who don't know how the tracking data looks like, this is exactly what you would see, generated by Skill Corner, where for Arsenal in red and also Newcastle in white, you can see the coordinates of the players over, let's say, the match. In this case, it's 10 frames per second. And as you can see, there is a green area, and this green area shows you the TV frame. And because it's coming from the TV, this tracking data, then there are some players who are not visible on the frame. And that's why a skill corner needs to have their own model to impute the missing coordinates of those players in that cases. Maybe another interesting aspect to pay attention is the ball and how the ball is moving, and whether it's fully following maybe the rules of physics as you would expect. And you can see that there are some maybe issues with the tracking of the ball properly. Okay. So the method that we are going to use to learn more about Arsenal and Newcastle in terms of the formations and each individual player's tactical position is based on my PhD thesis, which is publicly available, and you can read it. It's around 200 pages, but I will just, let's say, explain, let's say, the final product and how it can be used to provide a match analysis report in an understandable way. So the idea simply is that we are interested in inferring each individual player's momentary tactical position using tracking data. And then if we have all the positions inferred, then we can report the overall formation of the whole team. We, let's say, apply a graph representation over each team, focusing on the outfield players. In this case, you see there are 10 points arranged from bottom to top of the pitch, which you can say this seems to be a 4-2-3-1 because of the 4 players on the bottom half, and then 2 midfielders, and then 3 attacking midfielders and 1 lone striker. The idea is that given that we may agree that there are, let's say, 25 tactical positions more or less in football, we want to be able to say what is the position of this specific player that we have highlighted in the pink, let's say, circle. And using the, let's say, the method in the thesis, we end up with explaining that he is a left midfielder because he is to the left of this graph representation in the horizontal level, and in the vertical level, he is in the middle. So these 2 descriptions tells us that he is a left midfielder. So basically, we are assigning 2 colors to each player for the horizontal and vertical alignment, and these 2 colors in combination tell us what is the position of a player. For the vertical colors, we have dark blue to dark red, so it covers the backline, defensive midfielder, attacking midfielder, and frontline channels. For the horizontal levels, we have dark bronze to dark green covering the left center, right center, and right channels. So look at this player who has been inferred to be the right center back. The upper half semicircle, which is in dark blue, tells you that he is in the back line vertically, and the lower half semicircle, which has been inferred to be light green, tells you that he is in the right center. So the right center for the horizontal channel, dark blue for the vertical channel, tells you that he is the right center back. So the players who are, as you can see in the bottom of this graph, are colored dark blue and also light blue, and the players who are on top are colored dark red and light red. So it's basically on the front of this graph or in the bottom. And then you have the same for the left to right that is shown with the second level for the horizontal colors. Given that we are, let's say, assigning these colors for each in-play frame, what we can do, we can drive a time series of a player over the match time, how his color combination have changed. For example, we have player number 7, and as you can see in the vertical alignment or vertical level, which is shown in the top half row of this time series, he is mainly has been, let's say, inferred to be in red color, which red means on the front line. But when it comes to the horizontal level, you can see he was mainly on the right channel. So the right is coming from the dark green color. So these 2 combinations tells us that he was mainly as a right forward player. But also you can see there are moments of the match that his color in the vertical level changes to gray or even light blue. You see there is a gap here, the first gap. That means that at this moment the team made a substitution, and after and before the gap, you can compare and see that number 7 didn't really considerably change his position. So he was still as a right forward after the first substitution. Then there are the moments that he drops, maybe as you can see with the color that is in dark blue, but overall he's a right forward until the second gap. The second gap has a dot inside. This means that at this moment, number 7 was taken out and number 29 comes in to replace him. And when number 29 comes on the pitch, he's not continuing as a right forward as number 7. As you can see, He is still on the front line because of the dark red color, but his colors have become more, let's say, light bronze or light brown, which tells us he was operating in the left center forward channel. As it gets close to the next round that Arsenal wants to make a substitution, you can see his color become dark green, so he's moving to the right channel. The team makes a substitution, and then after that, number 29 still comes back to the central channels and continues until the last substitution, where after that you can see he was going really to the right channel. So this is only a timeline that we have created for one player. And later on, we will see how we can bring all these time series for all the players together and try to learn some dynamics between the teams over the match. What else we can do with these, let's say, positions that we are inferring over the match time is that we pick a player. Here we had number 7. And as we said, we have 25 possibilities for each frame. So what we can compute is that what percentage of the match time this player spent in any of these positions. As you saw, number 7 was mainly in the right forward channel, but here we can see that he spent 43% of the time he was on the pitch, and the ball was ongoing as a right forward, but also around 13% as a right center forward and around 18% as a right wing forward. So now what we want to do, we want to look at the lineup formation that is available on the Premier League's website for that match, where for Arsenal, what is, let's say, mentioned and reported there is a 4-3-3. So what we are going to do, you are going to pick the same 4-3-3 layout, and apart from having the player names, we are going to also put the position maps in the same locations. And these visualizations help you to understand whether there is a deviation between the position map of each individual player and the, let's say, position or location that you have seen in the layout that the Premier League is suggesting for the starting lineup formation. Starting with the players in the back line, you can say that more or less they are following the same, let's say, layout. Number 49, the left back, 33%. He was also going a bit higher, around 29% in the left wing back position. That's maybe acceptable or expectable from a left back or also a right back. Number 15, around 33% as a left center back, but also, as you can see, he's also moving to the other channels in this back line. Number 2, around 51% on the right center back. And number 4, 29% as the right back. When it comes to the midfield tree, what you can notice is that not all the players are operating on the same line. So it's not a flat 4-3-3. Number 5 is, let's say, appearing around 28%, 27% as a central defensive midfielder. So Arsenal seems to be playing with one single defensive midfielder, which was number 5. And number 41 and number 8 were playing in front of him. So number 8 seems to be the right attacking midfielder, and number 41 seems to be the left attacking midfielder. Now, when we go to the players on the front line, you can argue that number 11 and number 7 were really the left wing and right wingers, and number 19 was the player, let's say, the center forward, but he was really interested in moving towards the left channel. So you can see 20% in the left center forward, 14% in the left forward. So he was a bit, let's say, we can say not really a static center forward. He was really moving around different cells, but he was not staying in the center, and he had a tendency to go to the left. So let's see, this is just one picture that we saw in before. If we want to say what is the overall formation, we can say it was a 4-3-3 for Arsenal. But as we saw, we had this time series over the whole match. And if we stack them for all the players, we will end up with this visualization, which we call position map. I will just introduce some annotations and then let you to spend some time and try to see what you can learn from this visualization. So HT, as you can see, means the halftime. So this is the moment that has, let's say, the vertical line in gray. This is the moment that the first half ended. Here you have the moments that Arsenal scored the only goal of the match. And you can see there are two substitution signs on top of the figure. these are the moments that the opponent, in this case, Newcastle, made the substitution. So the moments that Arsenal made the substitutions are shown with the gaps, and the dot inside the gap tells you the incoming and outgoing players. But the moments that Newcastle made the substitutions are shown with the substitution signs. So let's spend 1 or 2 minutes. I will give you the time to try to see what you can learn from Arsenal in this match, and just add your, let's say, findings in the comments, and we will just try to go through them. And then later on, I will explain what I can see in this visualization. Waiting for your, let's say, insights in the comments. We can start with them. Maybe we wait 1 or 2 more minutes. Maybe it's a bit overwhelming to understand what is happening in the first visualization. I will try to explain it, and then later on we will give you more time to try to learn what you can see in the second visualization. As I don't see any, let's say, comments regarding this visualization, I will just start with what I can see. So we start with the players in the back line, the number 4, number 2, number 15, and number 49. These players have been, let's say, interpreted to be in the back line because of the dark blue or light blue colors that you can see in the vertical row, in the top half row of the timeline for each of those players. Number 4 seems to be really playing more offensive than number 49. As you can see, he is appearing more in red colors compared to here, the left back, while number 4 is the right back because of the dark green color in the horizontal level. Number 2 is the right center back, 15 is the left center back, and 49 is the left back. At least that's the case until the halftime. Number 5 is a single defensive midfielder, as we saw, the light blue color and also the light green color, gray color, that is exactly translates to the central defensive midfielder, where I have included the 5x5 matrix and the colors here for just as a reminder. Number 8, the right attacking midfielder, and that's exactly also what we saw in the previous slide. And 49, the left attacking midfielder, because of not only the light red color, but also the light brown color for 14-1 and light green color for 8. 7 and 11, the wingers, and 19 is the, let's say, lone striker, where you can see this is exactly the moments that he has a tendency to go to the left. And the reason that we saw that tendency is that he's switching his position with number 11. So number 19 and number 11 were switching their positions. So that's the tendency and behavior we can clearly see here for a considerable time of the match. 19 going to the left wing and 11 coming to play the center forward position. So the halftime, we have the halftime. The coach has the time to talk with the players. And then here is exactly when Arsenal makes the first substitution. As you can see with the dot, number 2 was taken out. Number 33 comes on the pitch. Number 33 is not playing the right center back because the colors that we have seen for number 33 are blue and also light, let's say, bronze and bronze. So this means he was in the left channel. And number 15, he was a left center back. In the second half, he has moved to the right center back. So that's an interesting observation. I think the first question would be why number 2 was taken out. Maybe in the first half, did he make any specific behavior or was that related to an injury? That's interesting to know. And then the second time is question is that why bringing, let's say, why moving number 15 to the right center back and bringing someone else to play in the left center back? There are some moments that you can see the left center back and the left back are switching their sides because of the change of colors, moving from light bronze to bronze. Then the goal comes for Arsenal, and as you may say that we don't see any clear, let's say, reaction from Arsenal after they score a goal because the colors of the players after and before that, they don't change considerably. And then we can say that when the next time Arsenal makes the substitution, that's exactly when number 29 came on the pitch and replaced number 7. So we saw that they are moving out one of they basically took out the right winger, brought a striker, center forward, and after that, it's really interesting to see that number 11, who was the left, let's say, winger, has moved to the right. And number 19, who was mainly the center forward with a tendency to go to the left, he moved to the left. So you can see with making one substitution, they changed the ordering of the players on the front line. It's still a 4-3-3, but just with a different personnel on the front line. Another interesting maybe finding is that when it comes to the next substitution, here number 3 is coming for Arsenal, and he's replacing number 19, Trossard, who was on the left wing, but he was playing more deep because of the colors that are gray. And when number 3 comes, and that's exactly when you can say that maybe Arsenal has moved to a back 5. Because number 3 is, we know from his name that he's, let's say, a left back. In the beginning, he's playing really in offense, but then he drops and plays in the back 5 for Arsenal. So the team is going to defend and make sure that they get the points. And the last substitution for Arsenal is changing number 20 with 8, where based on the colors, we can say that's just bringing fresh legs on the pitch and there is no positional change here that we see. So we saw some rotations for Arsenal, mainly happening because of the substitution, but overall 4-3-3 seems a good choice to represent how Arsenal operated in this match. When it comes to Newcastle, we have 3-4-2-1. That is what is reported on Premier League's website for that match. And if we do and follow the same idea as we did for Arsenal, this is how the layout would look like with the position maps. And I think it's clear that it was not a real back 3. It seems to be a more back 5 because of number 23 and number 21, who are the right wing backs and left wing backs. They have spent most of the time really in the defensive mode. So 34% number 23 was really the right back and 22% left back. And you can say that this was a back 5, so maybe back 3 is not a good idea to summarize how Newcastle played it in this match. But also you can see number 21, he was a more, let's say, free fullback. He was going more in offense compared to number 23. So even the right fullback and left fullback, they don't show a same footprint. That was more or less the same what we saw for Arsenal, but here for Newcastle, you see this asymmetry here. Number 8 and 39, they appear in a lot of different cells. And so 8 seems to be okay that we say he was really in the left side, but number 39 seems to come really to the center. And maybe that can be explained by how number 11 is operating. As you can see, number 11, he is not really a Saka that we saw for Arsenal. He was not really that static to be on the right forward position. He was really coming inside and going also dropping down. And that's also a clear distinction we can have from the left winger who was playing 33% as the left forward. And number 9 for Newcastle was really the forward, center forward, 45% staying in that cell, and he had a tendency to go to the right. So maybe we can say a 5, maybe 2, 3, if we want to. It's still debatable, but maybe 5, 2, 3 can be a better representation for Newcastle in this match. So this is now your turn. We can maybe also spend 2 minutes here. Try to see what you can learn about the player dynamics and how they react to substitutions, the goals, opponent substitutions, halftime, and just add what you can learn in the comments. Maybe we can wait 2 more minutes to just see some comments coming on and making sure that you are still there, because I also don't see any reaction in the comments. So maybe even if you cannot find anything, maybe just write something in the comments so we make sure the connection is still connected. Okay, I don't see any comments. I don't know, maybe you couldn't find anything or you are just not in a mood to write something in the comments. So I will start. So for Newcastle, the players who are in the back three are clear. Number 33, 4, and 5, the right center back, and left center back. But as we saw, the number 23 and 21, maybe we also need to put them in the back three and say this is in overall a back five because of the dark blue colors that are mainly seen for number 23 and also in majority of the time for number 21, who are the right back and left backs for Newcastle in this back five. Number 8 and 39 are the two players in the middle, so 5-2 and 5-2-3 is what we came up with. So as you can see, there are moments in the match where number 5 and number 4 are really going in the front line. These are the players who are mainly the players in the back line, but their colors have changed from dark blue to dark red. So that's interesting to know why, and probably the only way to know why is to check in the video for those specific time windows what has happened. I assume that there is probably a free kick, a corner kick, and that's why those players have appeared on the front line. And that can be, let's say, also confirmed with the change of color for maybe the other players that we may see in that moment, like 20, like number 8, who has dropped in the back line. So, and this can be a reason, and maybe number 10, who has also dropped in the back line. So this can explain that this has been probably a set piece situation. So maybe when we look in the first half, we don't see any specific dynamics, interaction between the players. So 5-2-3 seems to be what Newcastle was doing until the halftime ends, where exactly we saw in the beginning of the half, Arsenal made the substitution, and that's why we have this sign showing that for Arsenal for the opponent team. When it comes to the moment that the goal has been scored, we maybe don't see any specific reaction immediately. Maybe the only reaction can be attributed to the substitution that Newcastle made by changing number 23 and bringing number 17. But overall, it seems that the number 17 was following the same position as number 23, and we don't see any change of color combinations for him. The same time, we see another substitution where number 4 was taken out. And this is interesting because number 4 was the center back. And they are bringing in number 67. So 67 is appearing in the midfield line because of the light blue color and let's say light green color. So this is the moment that Newcastle has moved from a back 5 to a back 4. So the color combination, so they have taken out one defender, brought in a midfielder. So this is a clear reaction we may attribute to the being behind. So just try to be more, bring one player more in the midfield line and try to win maybe the battles there and turn the, let's say, page of the game. Let's see if at this moment, okay, we see there is also another substitution. So interesting that Newcastle reacted with 3 substitutions. So you're just finding them one by one. The last one at this moment that they made 3 substitutions at once was taking out number 9, the center forward, and bringing in number 18, who kept playing as a center forward. What we can see maybe after and before this substitution is that number 11, who was moving more inwards, as we saw because of the light green colors, he's now appearing more to the touchline because of the dark green color. So he's more playing like, I would say, Saka at this game, at least time window. And then there is the next wave for Newcastle to make their substitution, where they only made 1 substitution by taking number 11 out, who was the right winger, bringing in number 28. He appeared to be the left winger, moving number 10 from the left wing to the center forward. As you can see, after the substitution, the color in the horizontal level is changing. And number 18 has moved to the right. So they did something similar to Arsenal by making the substitutions, change the order of the players on the front line. we may say that there is really nothing specific happening. There are moments of the game that some players who are maybe in the back line appear more on the front line. You know, like number 13-3, you see the dark red color, but maybe a considerable observation belongs to number 5, the Swiss defender from Newcastle, that in the end of the match, you can say basically after when Arsenal made the last substitution, number 5 was really on the front line for Newcastle. So even at this moment, we may argue that Newcastle was playing with a back 3. So they started the match with a back 5. After conceding the goal, they made 3 substitutions at once. They moved to a back 4. And in the end of the match, they really needed a goal that they didn't get in the end. So that's exactly an explanation why they moved number 5 to the front line and played really a back 3. Okay, probably you would ask, why are we, let's say, bothering ourselves with all this coloring and graph representation? Why not just take the average locations of the players and just report that as the formation? And this is maybe the answer. If you take the averages for Arsenal players over the whole match when the match was in play, this is the average locations you end up with. And this is a bit, let's say, strange, I would say, because you would think that this doesn't look like a 4-3-3, but given what we explained so far, and we showed you that like number 19 had the tendency to go to the left, but also number 11, they were making some position switches. And the reason that these two players are now shown here close to each other is because of taking the average. So that's, let's say, the nature of average. When you take the average, it doesn't really necessarily tell you whether this player spent most of the time in this location, or this is just the average of the locations that he was in, and it's not representing his match time appearance. The same is true for Newcastle, where you will end up with this visualization, and maybe as a result, you say this team is playing a back 4, 33, 4, 5, and 23. What we saw that was more a back 5, where the right back and left back, they were playing a bit asymmetric. So, so far, what we did had mainly, let's say, opposition analysis or pre-match analysis application. But what else you can do with these player profiles is scouting of the players. So you pick the player of interest and you can see how he is, let's say, appearing over these 25 positions that we have inferred over not only the whole match, but also distinguishing it between in position and out of position to see if there is any specific pattern. And as you can see, the pattern is clear. Trossard, he is appearing mainly as a center forward, that we saw that he has tendency to go to the left. But when you have the in position and out of position, you see in position he was really roaming on the front line, but going to the left. Out of position, the pattern becomes clear that he was really staying mainly maybe 26% as a left center forward. Still, his profile is really something I would say distinguishable from other players around the front line, and that's why you can find and compare these players using these maps. Another interesting case that's going to probably start for Arsenal, I assume today, Odegaard. He spent around 30% over the whole match as a right attacking midfielder. In possession, this number was 34%. Out of possession, it was 24%. And what you see out of possession, that is clear that he was stepping up and playing as a right center forward. That's so how you can have these in possession and out of possession maps, but also construct similar visualizations like what we had for the overall team. So now we want to focus on some Newcastle players. He was, let's say, a number, I assume, so his name is Liver Maneto, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. He was the left back for Newcastle. And you can see the clear distinction between out of position being really in the left back position, but in position, he was all over the place, I would say, and he was spending more or less equal time in the left wing forward, left midfielder, but also playing also some time in inside channels. And the Brazilian player from Newcastle, we said that he, based on the Premier League layout, was the right defensive midfielder, but based on what we saw, he was really going to the center. And you can clearly see the distinction in position. He was really more, I would say, versatile compared to out of position, that he was mostly spending 23, 24% in the central midfielder position. We can also provide some visualizations over the match segments where the exact method has been explained in my thesis, but to just say how to interpret this visualization is that we are providing a special representation. For example, until the first half ends, when the first substitution comes, you can see the weighted average of the players based on the location of the positions that they have been inferred to be, but also the most common, let's say, positional movements that they are making. So this is exactly clear. You see the back four more or less for Arsenal. You see the back five for Newcastle, and the reason that we can say it's a back five because of like the arrows that you see for number 21 is both up and down. So he was really covering a lot of, let's say, a large range of space. And that's why when you're taking the average, he's here, but it doesn't mean that he's mainly here. He's up and down the channel. The second interval of interest that we have included here is after some substitutions that we have seen. And the last one is basically when Arsenal is really playing in a more defensive way when they want to really keep the score. And Newcastle is playing more forward. As you can see, Arsenal is in their own half, and Newcastle has, let's say, dropped the number of players in the defensive line. So to summarize what we explained here is just try to see what we can learn from the previous match that these two teams faced against each other. We are not predicting what's going to happen today and not going to say what formation is best to counter which formation. But I would, let's say, suggest that you keep an eye on some of the patterns we saw from the last time these two teams played against each other and see if you can spot those patterns. Mainly, for example, you saw the wingers switching positions, and also when it comes to the substitutions, pay attention not only to the players who are coming in or out, but also how it changes the, let's say, order of the other players on the pitch. Before we look into the questions, and you all still have time to add your questions in the comments, for the next week, we are not going to focus on the, let's say, title race. We are going to cover the Manchester United match against Liverpool. It's going to be on Sunday. And we want to see how these two rivals have faced each other the last time they played at Old Trafford last year. And thanks for your attention. I will just quickly go to the comments and see what questions have you added there. Try to answer them one by one, but feel free to add your other questions or remarks. So one question is that, is the code available publicly for reproduction? The answer is no. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to have these webinars organized here. So the code is not publicly available. And the data is not publicly available because that was also one of the other questions. The data is part of a course that I'm taking provided by 12, the context engineering course, and they gave me the green light to use it for these webinars, but it's not something that I can share outside with you. Yeah. So Yeah, this specific, let's say, tracking data for the Premier League matches are not publicly available. So these are, let's say, the product, like in this case, a Skill Corner, who is the company who is doing the computer vision and let's say object detection and tracking are selling to the clubs. So it's not for free, but if you go back to my uh, post from last week where I had a webinar covering, I think last week we had covered Arsenal against City. In the comments, I have added some links to publicly available tracking data. These are maybe really not that interesting anymore because it's for maybe 3 years ago the matches, or it's from the World Cup, but it's publicly available and it's something that you can use, maybe try to work on your projects and develop your ideas. And I would suggest to check the comments of 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago. Yeah. We are waiting for more comments. 10 minutes is still to go until the match starts. Uh, and let's see if Arsenal can come back to the top of the table, as we saw in the beginning of the presentation with the data stats, or they will stay as second and the pressure keeps building. So I don't see any other points to cover in the comment section. Probably that means that uh, everything was clear. So thanks for joining. The video after the webinar ends will be uploaded by LinkedIn to the post. So you can watch it again, or for people who missed it, uh, you can just share it with your friends and then they can watch it. And that's it until next week. We come back with Manchester United Liverpool. I hope you enjoyed today's match and probably you can spot some of the things we mentioned during this webinar. Have a nice day ahead and bye bye.